Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast interview Normal People Just Talk thing, I guess. This is Undine Almani, and I am here with my Instagram friend Xenia today. So, hi. Want
Hi,
to
Undine.
introduce yourself so I don't have to talk so much?
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here on your podcast. So, as you said, my name is Xenia, and I have an Instagram account where I talk about sustainable switches that you can make in your lifestyle. I'm also passionate about zero waste, minimalism, and mental health. I openly talk about my own mental health struggles and overall just open for any kind of conversation. And I recently started my YouTube channel under the same name, and there I also have this kind of niche where I try to triangulate any kind of topic, for example even virtual reality and the way it can be used for sustainability. I guess this is it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Very excited
Yeah,
to be
great.
here.
No, you don't have to be excited. I mean, like, this is the first episode, and I
It's
hope
the
there are going to
best.
be
It's the
some more.
best.
Maybe. I don't know. I hope not. Like, we're supposed to get better at this over time, I guess. But how has it been with YouTube? You just recently started your own channel, and do you like it? And what do you think?
Well, honestly, my favorite part is what we're doing right now is recording because I'm a person that likes to do things on the spur of the moment and blab about my experiences. But then the hardest part for me is make it nice and organized and transform the stream of consciousness that I record into an informative video. So I'm much better doing that with text, honestly, because I love organizing things in bullet points and I try to do it with my posts. But YouTube is something more of a closer journey to know me, and for example, I have a video where I tell you all about my mental health story, all about my mental health issues, and want to start a conversation and dismantling the stigma around it. So I love it.
That's
And
pretty brave.
yeah, thank you. I love
That's
just
brave to talk about that stuff
yeah.
online. And I'm not sure I could do that because, especially the topics you talk about, like EDs or, that is tough stuff. And it's kudos to you.
Thanks. It's just probably the only reason why I can talk about this is because I've been privileged enough to have years of therapy, which is reimbursed by my health insurance, right? So I'm in a very secure place despite what's going on in the world right now. And I want to acknowledge this and say that if you are not open to talk about it, it's up to you. We're all on our journey, and I think that's why I even have some of the videos on my channel called my journey, because it's my perception of things. Your story can be completely different, and I think that's the beauty of it, and that's the beauty of your podcast as well, because you want to talk to people and their stories and perception of things in comparison to general understanding, the textbook definition of things, of sustainability and minimalism.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's my idea. I want to do this like just two people talking to each other and just having a normal conversation. And it's also supposed to be a little bit about minimalism, so we're going to get into that in a bit. But yeah, to those of you who are new to this, just like a short introduction, I've been a minimalist for quite a while. So, and I've also tried doing a podcast before on a German YouTube channel that I had, but I switched to an English YouTube channel. So I'm trying to make this work now, and I think I like it much better, because why should we limit ourselves to like a super small audience in our own countries if we can talk to the whole world? So I find it super amazing to do that, to talk to other people all over the world. And I also don't like to just hear myself talk all the time. I kind of want to talk to other people and hear their opinions and perspective too. And I also like if there's, some sort of friction, and just because you can learn a lot of that from that. You can learn to be more tolerant and to respect other views and boundaries. And just like with minimalism, there's so much, everyone has an opinion on that. It's easy to have an opinion on that because it's a very basic topic. And yeah, I'm not the inventor of minimalism, but yet everyone has their own definition, right? I mean, by the way, how did you get into that?
Who is
How
the
did you get
inventor of
into minimalism?
minimalism? Who is the inventor of minimalism? Is it Okama, who said that you have to cut out all the extra? I don't know. It's just a it's just a silly question. I should look it up. I love looking up stuff. How did I get into minimalism, though? It's started with moving to a different country to study abroad. I moved to Warsaw for 5 months for a spring semester. And so I felt like I have to pack my life into a 20 kilogram luggage, into a 20 kilogram suitcase, and then live for 5 months somewhere, and then go back and bring the same 20 kilograms back. And that's when I realized that I have a lot of stuff. And
so did you get rid of all of your stuff before you moved abroad to study, or did you leave that with your family, or how did you do that?
No, I was able to keep the student housing in Russia, where I lived back then, still reserved for me. So I could keep some of the clothes and some of the, I didn't have to buy a new pillow, so I kept the pillow or whatnot. But a lot of things, when I was living in Poland, I had to leave behind, and a lot of these things luckily didn't end up thrown away. They were adopted by people who came after me. So for example, I bought a skillet to cook and a kettle, so I left it with my friends who I made while I was studying there. So the only thing that dragged me down the most, that I felt, oh my god, I have so much of it, was the clothes. So I realized that I have too much of it, and honestly only wore, 20% of my wardrobe. This being said, I don't really have that much clothes even from the beginning. I grew up in a poor family, and we never really had a luxury of having many things. So I always remember my parents would rather buy me an expensive pair of one boots that would last me 3 years, rather than having 3 pairs every year, which are cheaper. So, but still, I
think that is an interesting point, if I can interrupt you
sure.
just real quick, because I've heard that quite a few times. I think there is also a famous podcast that is called The Financial Diet. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
I love their YouTube channel.
And on the Financial Diet podcast, I think the host, she also said, like, don't be ashamed of yourself if you're buying the cheap option just because you can't afford like the expensive option that lasts you many years, but you just can't afford it in this very moment right now. Because just if you want to get some sort of awesome boots that cost, like, let's say, I think a good pair of boots here would cost 150 or 200 euros, I guess, and they would last you 10 years, I guess. But if you just don't have that money, you will probably get some for 30 bucks. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Well, the best thing, I think, is to take the both of the from the both worlds, and to buy 150 euro worth boots from a second-hand store, because then you have old and tried boots or any kind of clothes that not only
all the advantages at once.
yeah, not only was worn before and withstood the previous owner, but also look, if it looks pretty good, it means it's a good quality. And that's the way I kind of have this so-called, I don't know, an ethical dilemma in between being like vegan and wearing leather and wool. I buy it secondhand, so it's kind of a compromise I found for myself that works for me. So I love, like I'm wearing a woolen sweater right now, and it's secondhand. So no animals were suffering while the sweater was made, but at the same time, it's high quality and and it was a fraction of a price that it would have been. So what I like about the financial diet overall is that they say no shame in anything. It's no shame to be poor, no shame to make unsustainable choices if you can't. And I really I really support this idea, is that you shouldn't be ashamed of yourself, and you shouldn't shame others. So if you see others doing something that is not what you would do, it's still not a reason to shame, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always kind of a development. You're not born like the perfect, sustainable person that has it all figured out. I mean, I don't know when you started with the whole zero waste game, but for me it was about 8 or 10 years ago. I don't really count. But back then, we didn't have alternatives like produce bags and this kind of stuff. I mean, some people might have made them, but that it was just starting out with the first blogs about this. It was a very tiny internet bubble, and this whole social media thing wasn't that big. Instagram, I knew nobody who had Instagram. And I think, when I think back, I often walked into a bakery and I just told them, please just give me the buns as they are, like in your hands. And I brought a basket. And I brought this basket just because they couldn't touch anything, they couldn't touch your hands. It was like considered not hygienic, and they weren't allowed to do that. But they could throw them in the basket, so they would go through the air and not touch your hands, and that was kind of ridiculous. And I was looked at for this every single time, and I felt like the weirdest hippie of all. And I actually enjoy that it has become mainstream or more mainstream, even though there are still these kind of hippie cliche misconceptions,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, speaking of misconceptions, there are so many of them, and I feel like it's my personal duty to say that, first of all, I remember that at some point, I even learned it at school because we had an English class, and there was a text about a lady who has all her trash from a year in a mason jar. And we thought, this lady must be crazy. I know, I was a teenager back then. And then sometimes, still now in 2021, when people hear zero waste, they think that it's the same thing, that I'm a crazy lady who has all my trash from 1 year in a mason jar. Well, first of all, it's quite hard to do, and I live with a non-waste person, so I can't really make them be like me. And on the other hand, there are also still so many regulations relating to food that you can't get stuff without a package at all. And thirdly, you don't have to be perfect. And it's cool to have so little trash that you can fit it in a small jar. But if you recycle and if you go for bulk produce, you're already doing more. So I think there is a quote that's all over the internet that we don't need perfect environmentalists, we need people doing a lot of people doing stuff imperfectly. So and in many countries, like in Russia, for example, there are not enough even recycling facilities. It's pretty common to burn trash instead of recycling it or bury it in a landfill.
Yeah.
So
I think there are also issues like that in the United States, because
Absolutely.
I've heard from a few people on Instagram that they say they don't even have a place to bring that kind of stuff to recycle it. I mean, where I live, it's pretty easy, and still, if you put stuff into the recycling bin, only 40 or 50% will be recycled, and the rest will be used to fire up the normal household trash, you know.
Exactly. And overall, even when you look even deeper into that, plastic is in the developed world, it's not as big of an issue. It's mostly food waste. So I think 40% of overall waste is food waste. So I think even concentrating on that, if there are no plastic recycling facilities around, is very, very, it's a very good idea. So, you know, just like, you know, everything in the world, there's no black and white in terms of zero waste and sustainability. So there is a place for everyone, basically, and you can do whatever you can.
What also bugs me sometimes is that sustainability and minimalism aren't always associated with each other. Like when you just look at Instagram, for instance, and you look at the hashtag minimalism, and you look at what people post, it's a lot of polished white interior and awesome apartments and like bathroom porn, I guess. Like beautiful apartments and storage possibilities, and I don't know,
Aesthetic.
like a little bit more like the Marie Kondo version of minimalism, like putting it all in a good order and a good shape and in a nice hipster apartment. And it's not so much about sustainability. And I also find that within my own audience and the people who I connect with who are interested in minimalism, that for some this isn't even within their scope. They just want to reduce their stress level, get rid of things, improve their life, their overall situation, maybe save some money and so on. But this sustainability aspect of minimalism sometimes really isn't there in the whole image of it, you know?
Yeah, very interesting, and you're absolutely right. Minimalism is, first and foremost, for a lot of people, is an aesthetic. So, and I can understand it, because there is such thing as minimalist style and interior style design, right?
I mean, it's not a bad thing or anything. It's just
so
the aesthetic of it, and the aesthetic of zero waste even is not something I want to dismiss off. I don't want to say that it's a bad thing. I actually like how all these mason jar pictures look like. It's cool, but
I don't like. You're right. I personally don't like glamorizing zero waste and minimalism and sustainability, because it feels like it's inaccessible and it's only for white rich people, which it is, because let's be honest, it is very white movement, and white female in particular movement, zero waste, I mean. So I personally don't like glamorizing it, because I want people to know that I blow my nose in a rag, in an old t-shirt, and I you know, and I make this bulk bags out of an old pillowcase rather than buy a cute new one, because this is part of the sustainability for me, not taking a new thing but reusing an old one. But if people really need it to be cute and aesthetic is appealing for them, it should be as well. I think if it gets them inside the movement and they get interested, I think it should be there. It's just that it's not at the core.
I mean, I think it is with that, with the mugs, you know, the to-go cups that are very fancy and popular. And I think a lot of people like these to-go cups to take with them. And that is entrance level zero waste.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you move up to reusing and repurposing things.
Yeah.
But if you kind of skip that step of making good use of the things that you already have, I think a lot of people skip that step and go straight to buying glassware and all
Yeah.
these fancy items and a metal lunchbox if they already have a plastic one, that is
Exactly.
maybe not
Yeah.
even toxic or anything. But I think some people just they get into it and they want to buy this new fancy zero waste stuff and not use the stuff that they already have, the kitchenware that they already have. Like buying a new
Yeah.
bamboo cutlery set for when you're on the road, I guess. But I can just use the cutlery that
That's
I
my
have
biggest
in
pet
my
peeve.
drawer.
Yeah, I remember on Instagram on stories you had a question, yeah, like do you have useless minimalist slash sustainability zero waste items that you hate, and I said that this ones were my least favorite because it's literally you have it at home. Why
Yeah.
why do you need to take it? But yeah, anyway, that's the thing about living in a society which is based on consumerism in a way that, I mean, even though minimalism seemed to be like more of a, I don't know, Eastern practice, I think, in a way that it's more spiritual for, I mean, even Marie Kondo, it starts with completely different understanding of craftsmanship in Japanese culture, rather than things that, for example, even Marie Kondo's shop, famously known for 200 euro, I don't know, candle, is because it's a craftsmanship, and Japanese people treat items like they are not one they use, they are for generations. So even if you get a candle holder that's made by a skilled person, you treat it like it has a piece of this person's soul, and that's why, according to Marie Kondo as well, you're supposed to thank the thing for your service. So you see, it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
But of course, people in the West took this nice idea and they were like, yeah, awesome, so let's just make this aesthetically pleasing minimalist things and make them kind of selling an idea, selling an aesthetic. And it's absolutely the same with this bamboo cutlery set, which is completely useless because you look not at the core of the idea but mostly at the aesthetic appeal of it. So yeah, minimalism became a product, but it's not bad or wrong. It's just the way it is. And if people come for product and stay for the philosophy, I'm up for it. It's fine, and the more the better. The more people are attracted to it. And at the same time, if you're a maximalist and you for a reason like to be surrounded by stuff and like to be stimulated by a lot of things around you, it's also great. It's it's a personal choice, and for me, why it works is actually prepared like a whole pitch why minimalism works for me, but maybe I cover it sometime later.
Yeah, I actually think it's important not to judge and to more lead by example, because if people are interested in that kind of lifestyle and they feel that they're unhappy with their belongings, I mean, at some point you can say that it weighs you down, and that is something you can generalize, I think, because if you have too much stuff, whatever you say at some point is going to weigh you down, and you might not be super aware of that, but it's not my place to say, hey, you got too much stuff and that's why you're not happy. First of all, there are going to be all sorts of reasons for someone not to be super happy with their life, and second of all, it's kind of judgmental. And
exactly. And you know what, the last thing I want for people is to think that it's some kind of a trend and fashion and declutter everything they have and sit in a amazing minimalist empty apartment and be like, I feel empty. yeah, I don't want people to be unhappy and then just to free up space to buy new stuff. Yeah, right. So it has to come from within and not just because it's a trend and people are liking it. A lot of people think that a minimalist aesthetic is cold and empty and sterile, and it's completely fine. It's awesome that if they don't like it.
I've heard that so many times actually. Like when my first apartment, there was no furniture in there, and everyone was asking me, "Well, what you gonna put in there?" And I was like, "Nothing." Like, why would I put furniture in there? I just have to carry it out of that when I move. So, no. But okay, so we've talked quite a bit. I don't know how much people who are listening to this video actually like to hear us talking, or so maybe if you are listening to this podcast, maybe if you have questions, Xenia and I will answer your questions below this video, and just let us know what you want to know, and what you think of this kind of format, because this is pretty new to me. So I've never done any interview style YouTube thing before. So you give us feedback, all right? Okay, so maybe to wrap this up, let's just talk a little bit about this whole sustainability and minimalism bubble online, and maybe everyday life as well. What with regard to recent developments. Like, I find it interesting to look back to the past, like we did before when I said, like, remember that time when we didn't have any of this stuff, we didn't have any zero waste items, it wasn't a trend. And with regard to looking back and to kind of seeing improvements, what do you think? What are the most recent developments that you like within this sphere, and what are the things that you don't like, the recent developments that you don't like about minimalism and sustainability?
All right, interesting. Well, honestly, I think the OG zero waste were our grandmas, kind of. And my mom, for example, she always repurposes her stuff, and I mean, before the plastic packaging and plastic bags were created, because they last longer, right? Plastic doesn't break down, and so before people would use fabric and paper bags. It's just it's sometimes when I come to the market, to the street market, to buy some veggies, a lot of older people tell me, "Oh, it's so nice that you have this bag with you. People used to do that more often, So I mean, like, for them it's like 20 years ago. Of course, 10 years ago, or when I started zero waste around 2015, 16. It was much less, things that I kind of don't like. Meaning the straws, the bamboo straws, the bamboo cutlery sets. So it was very, very limited, and mostly people just saying that, oh, it would be nice to have a bulk store where you can buy stuff without packaging. And I remember when it was in the news that the first plastic-free shop opened in Germany, where you can buy everything like in.
I remember that one. That was in Berlin. I've actually never been there because I haven't been in Berlin for a while.
Yeah, neither have I. Back then it felt like, oh wow, it's so nice. Nowadays there are it's much more common. You can try and look at around your area. I definitely know a couple of shops like that in the Netherlands. So that's a more positive thing, of course. What I don't like is that, a lot of companies with shady kind of greenwashing policies to adopt this kind of sustainability image and try to promote their Ziploc, silicone Ziploc bags and stuff like that. But for me personally, my most favorite sustainable item and zero waste item is a menstrual cup. I think it's amazing. It's super convenient to use. Everyone with periods and vaginas should try. I think if you haven't tried it, what you're doing. Of course, people can have different medical issues, but it has been proven. I think there are some studies that I can find that it's less. You can have less allergic reactions on a menstrual cup rather than a tampon or pad. So yeah, that's amazing, and this is what I love. And I see much more people talking about it. So I think it's very nice because it achieves two points at the same time. Women saying that periods are natural, people with periods saying, you know what, we bleed, get over it. And another thing is that it's an amazing substitute for a lot of products which are also quite expensive. And Scotland is the only country where you don't have to pay tax or have free period products, right? So a lot of countries you still have to pay for your tampons and stuff, and they are expensive, and you go through them quickly, right? So yeah, that's an amazing thing. And when I see more and more growing community of zero waste, sustainability and minimalism, it feels like a lot of people do understand that they go hand in hand together, because they all kind of practice intention behind everything you do, everything you bring into your life, everything you're buying and paying for. You kind of feel people are trying to think about it. People are trying to ask questions: where did it come from? How sustainable is this? Like, I think it's amazing that there are more and more people doing that. What was your question? I think I covered
Yeah, my
it,
question,
right?
you answered my question actually, I think pretty well, because my question was just what recent development about all this in this minimalism and sustainability sphere do you like, and what do you not like so much? and that, I think we got it, So I thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. I'm so excited to see.
This has been pretty cool for a first try, It's like an interesting experiment. So I've got this little piece of paper here, and I wrote down some notes, just, so I would have like this structure, but I found actually that it was nice to not have too much structure and to just have a normal conversation. But my last point on the sheet is that after I've been the host on this thing and I've asked you all sorts of questions, do you have any question for me? Because then you ask me this question and then we say goodbye to our audience, I guess.
All right. I do have a question for you. And I think this is... so I know that you have a partner and that you have a daughter. So I was just wondering, how has your life changed? Because before you said you had an empty apartment, and it was extreme minimalism without furniture. How has it changed with other people being in your life, and one of them depending on you directly?
I've made a lot of compromises. Thank you for that question. That is an awesome question. I think the most drastic piece of furniture that I had to bring into our lives was a table. I had never really had a table before, like where you sit as a family. I've always eaten on the floor, and I like that better because, I don't know, just feel more grounded, if I can say that. I know this word has been used so much and it's a little bit weird, but I hope it's clear what I mean. It's just like nice to be on the floor and be on the ground level. So I kind of like that better than having a table. And we're also stiff, and we do yoga to be less stiff and get into shape. And then we sit on the table where we basically have this unnatural position. And we don't have to keep our back straight, and we don't have to stretch our legs. So having a table was weird in all aspects of my life. And the other thing was just, to let them be. I mean, with my daughter, it's easy. I kind of have a capsule wardrobe for her,
Nice.
but
Yeah.
I can't tell my husband to get a capsule wardrobe and become a minimalist. That would be ridiculous. He doesn't want that. He actually likes his old clothes, and he has a good point about his memorabilia. He just says that if you touch these textiles and if you touch your old things, it does something else with your brain and how you feel with your emotions than if you just look at a picture of it. And I totally get that, because I have that with baby clothes sometimes. Like I have these tiny little clothes, and I think like, wow, she fit in there once. Oh my god! And that feeling, you can't get that from a picture, because you can't see it, you can feel it. The size is not the same. It's just different. So I get it, and with in some aspects of my life, I'm not a minimalist, I guess, because I kept some baby pants, But yeah, those are the most present things I can think of. But just keeping stuff in our apartment, because we share spaces.
Yeah.
So that stuff. Yeah, I deal with
That's
that.
super
And
sweet.
I sometimes wish. I sometimes wish that that it would be different. I sometimes wish that I had less stuff, and he would have less stuff too. But then again, I like the contrast. I think it's a good contrast, and it's boring if you're all the same. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very sweet that she kept some of the baby clothes, and also I think it makes it even more special, because you have space in your life to keep it, first of all, and then it's not like if you have a lot of decorations and here and there, a lot of stuff, then it gets lost. And if it's something special that's kept for a reason, it makes it unique, and it sets it apart, right? So I think it's very sweet, and it's something that was hard for me, honestly, because I moved here in the Netherlands several years ago just with a suitcase, and now I have stuff, and a lot of the stuff is not mine. But if I have to move, we'll have to carry all of it, and I just am terrified of it. But at the same time, it's cool. It's cool that my partner can have whatever he needs, and not be living in an empty apartment, even though I would love that. Yeah. So it's about all about compromise, and appreciating each other, and saying, you have right to. Oh my God, my camera keeps going down. Anyway, you have right to keep stuff that you like, and I have right to not have too much around me, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their personal level of minimalism. I mean, even in the minimalism sphere, there are people who call themselves extreme minimalists, and they're moderate minimalists, maybe like you and me, and I guess. And then there are people that are just about the Marie Kondo idea, and they say, I feel I want to move towards minimalism, but first of all, I want to get all my things in order, and that's fine, because wherever you want to go, eventually you get there, right? So. Yeah.
Very good point.
Okay, I'm terrible at saying goodbye and at wrapping things up, but the light is actually kind of terrible here, and it's raining. So I think it's getting darker and darker, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Thank you for coming here. Yeah. That was cool. I like that.
Thanks
Maybe we
a lot,
can do
Xenia.
it again someday, that was cool. Maybe we can do live or something.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, that's it.
Bye.